Who wouldn't love the delicate beauty of sakura of Japan? That's why today we will paint a cherry blossom tree on a vibrant yellow flower-filled landscape. Let's start by positioning the horizon line. Next, let's draw the tree trunk. I make the stroke a bit shaky for a natural look of a tree. I even hold my pencil in a different manner to make loose strokes for the twigs and branches. I just draw some lines here on the horizon as my guide for distant mountain or trees. I moisten my paper with my water sprayer. I mix the color for my sky using Amethyst Genuine and Horizon Blue. The mixture is a bit watery. I use my sprayer to soften the edges of my strokes. And I intentionally leave white unpainted gaps on random areas to depict clouds on the sky. I also didn't paint the middle part as I reserve it for the cherry blossoms. Again, I keep spraying the edges to make the area look soft. Notice how soft and light the tonal value of my sky is. We need to make it light so it won't overpower the color of the tree. I tilt my paper a bit as we will be playing with some flowy paints as we paint the field. I use yellow ochre and the new gomboge for a bright yellow color. The mix is a bit creamy. Next, I paint some green strokes and create connection between yellow and green. Here, I change the angle of my brush and apply very thick consistency of yellow. I use my sprayer to let the colors bleed and flow down. I also tilt my paper more to help the paint flow down. Next, I add some thick dark green strokes on the edge. Then I will use the sprayer again to make them flow. The green paint should be really thick and creamy so when you spray water, you'll create a nice gradient and the paint won't look too faded. I add some dots of green at the background just to put additional elements. I also splatter some yellows here in the foreground while the layer is still wet. I splatter some greens too and try to protect the sky from splatters by covering the brush. Now let's paint the distant building on the horizon. I use Amethyst Genuine and Horizon Blue, but the mix is slightly darker than the color of the sky. I also drop some darker spots using Payne's Gray. Now that the sky fragment is dry, I use a wet brush and roll it on the tree fragment to randomly wet the surface. I mix peach and quinacridone rose and drop some colors on the area. Notice that I have created strokes with hard and soft edges in effect. I left some white unpainted gaps to prevent it from looking like a blob. I also hold my brush in a different manner so I have less control and the strokes would look more relaxed. You can splatter paints to make various sizes and shapes of flowers. While this layer is still moist, I make a darker tone by adding perylene violet to my mix. I drop some dark spots on some areas just to create shadow and dimension. Be careful not to overdo this step so you won't lose the freshness of the colors. Using a small brush, I paint the twigs and branches. I use burnt henna, amethyst genuine, and the leftover pink mix for this. Make the strokes as fine as possible. I suggest that you vary also the thinness a little bit and make the stroke shaky and not stiff. I make the color a little darker to make it pop among the pink background. Now let's paint the branch and trunk using a big brush with its hair flat on the paper. My stroke looks a bit dry to show the rough texture of the trunk. Let's add few more strokes for the branches and emphasize the dimension by darkening some parts even more. The key to making it pop is to make sure that the tree trunk appears darker than the flower filled background. If the tree has the same tonal value with the background, it will definitely look flat. As our last step, let's blend the base of the trunk by adding some grass around it. This is our cherry blossom tree landscape in Japan. Our next destination is an incredibly beautiful environment, so don't miss it out.